The lawmakers are on their way back to Washington, and they're trying to get something done either on health care or taxes or maybe both before this August recess. Senate Republicans expressing serious doubts, though, about the health care plan and whether they can get anything done. And with the to-do list growing, so are fears that nothing gets done before the recess at all. So that fine introduction is where we start things with New York Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin, who joins us. That's your setup, Congressman, is that nothing is expected, but can it get done? Let me start with health care. How realistic is it that you think the Senate can get something back to you guys?
Well, I think we'll get a lot more really important intel from the Senate this week as to exactly where their process is, their legislative will, working over the course of the July 4th week, last week. They come back at what I would gather from listening to some of the Sunday morning news show interviews that was done yesterday. You had senators talking about how that original discussion draft has significantly changed. We haven't yet seen what the most recent draft looks like. So depending on what that bill says, hopefully we see the Senate votes getting closer to passage so we can get this on the president's desk by August recess. You know,
you're a Republican, but from the Northeast, and you represent a district out on Long Island, where you're joining us, I believe, from right now. Are you worried politically about the fallout from this whole health care bill? There have been midterms in the past, and you well know this, where parties that are in power, be it Democrat or Republican, you pass a controversial bill like this, or you don't pass it, and there are, you got to pay for it in some way. Have you thought about it?
Republicans, the president himself as well, we have made no bones about it. We said as campaigning last November or for prior elections that we don't support Obamacare and that we favor repealing and replacing it. So I believe that Republicans should keep our commitment to repeal and replace Obamacare. And as you look at the individual market all throughout our country, either collapsed or collapsing, depending on where you look, it is important for us to get this done over the finish line. I would be more concerned about us going back to the voters in the fall of 2018, trying to make an excuse for why we didn't get anything done on any of these issues, and that's not something we're going to do.
What if you get halfway there? What if you get repeal and then the headline becomes, well, they repealed Obamacare, they told us they would, but X amount of people have been thrown off their insurance as a result? I mean, that's a tough one to run on, right?
Well, no matter what we do in Congress, the other side, I mean, there are people out there who want to support the ACA at all costs. They want to oppose Republicans at any and all costs and resist, persist, oppose, and obstruct this president, saying you can't work with him or you'll normalize his presidency. No matter what we do on our side, the opposition on the other side is going to try to develop scary sound bites. And the fact is that as you get closer to November of 2018, you're just not going to see what they are saying come true, because the CBO is only scoring one bill that we're still working on and not factoring in anything Secretary Price can do through HHS or any other bill that's working its will through Congress right now.
What about taxes? What is the hope, or what do you think can get done there? I mean, I heard people like Newt Gingrich saying, hey, let's get this going now. I mean, why are we waiting? Why does it have to be health care then taxes, whereas others say there is some triggers in this health care bill that have to get done in order to move on to the taxes? What's the truth on that?
Well, in Congress, we're seeing the tax reform process playing out. The House has been working for years on tax reform, so we're able to hit the ground running. The House Ways and Means Committee doing their hearings, finalizing a bill to work through the end of the process. I think the timeline, hopefully, is for the Senate to be able to pass something to get tax reform on the president's desk by the end of 2017, which would be great, and we can all watch the economy ripping in 2018. But with a new administration, and the Senate hasn't been working on tax reform as long as the House has, the timeline makes sense.
I'm going to ask you one Russia-related question because you're in the Foreign Affairs Committee, and the question is this. Can we realistically work with the Russians? Because that's what has come up on a number of different issues after the Trump-Putin meeting. Is it realistic to think that we can either work or trust with Russia right now?
Well, first off, it's important that on certain aspects that we are communicating, and that certain areas where we are adversaries, that we are able to neutralize that tension that exists. North Korea, Ukraine, Syria come to mind. where our interests might be aligned. The United States wants to defeat ISIS. Russia wants to defeat ISIS. When Russia makes an announcement like they did a couple weeks ago about how they killed Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi,
right.
As an American concerned about American security, I was thrilled about hearing that. It would be nice to see more successes, no matter where they're coming from, to see ISIS wiped off the map. That's one example.
All right, Congressman, thank you for all the time. We appreciate it. Are you flying back to D.C. or Amtrak? I know you heard Penn Station a little bit of a mess today. So.
Yeah, no kidding. Going back tomorrow. It looks like we are venturing through Penn Station, so wish me luck.
Summer of hell is what they call it, what our governor's called it here in New York. All right, Congressman Zeldin, thank you, sir. We appreciate that very much.